everyone, and happy start to a brand new week. I thought I would just do a little video here for, well, we have a lot of stuff coming up this week, right? We've got that wonderful eclipse. We have an eclipse on Tuesday, Wednesday. The energy is already here. We've got an equinox coming up. Lots of wonderful things will change from Virgo to Libra fairly soon. But the topic I want to talk about today isn't really to do with those things particularly. It's to do with something that it just kind of occurred to me. And it occurred a little bit because on Thursday evening, this coming Thursday, the gorgeous Emma Sullivan and myself are going to be doing a workshop on harmonizing soul connections. And whilst I was thinking and meditating upon this topic a little bit, just to tune into what we were going to bring forward for you all, it was really interesting because the phrase emotional intelligence came up. Now, emotional intelligence, it's an interesting one because it's really quite challenging to develop that within yourself. And just like any type of intelligence, intelligence, knowing all these words that indicate a wisdom or some level of wisdom, it takes feedback, right? It takes mirroring, it takes experience. Everything's experiential. And emotional intelligence is nothing different. If you want to gain wisdom or intelligence in a certain topic, you'll read a book, you'll go and experience it yourself. Your brain will figure things out, your body will figure things out. Now, on the topic of relationships, friendships, family, loved ones, and of course, loved ones, soulmates, beloveds, they're a really powerful topic for many right now because it's part of our basic human needs as a fantastic spirit being in a human body to want connection, to want authentic connection. Yet authentic connection can't be harnessed with one another, regardless as to what level that relationship is, whether that's a neighbor to neighbor, whether that's friend to friend, whether that's beloved to beloved. Those authentic, full of integrity relationships, they're not always that easy to harness. And that's what we're finding, right? Whenever you find someone, and it happens a lot in this community, where we feel lonely. And I think it's part of the human constitution, really, the human disposition to find themselves feeling lonely when we're separated from ourselves, because everything mirrors outward. Now, as we want to learn something about ourselves, we have to see how we're being experienced by others, especially when it comes to emotions. And the irony is, even though one of the biggest things, and this is one of the biggest things I get asked about in private appointments and recorded readings, or even healings, is always healing around relationships and loved ones. And I say it's fascinating because we want to know someone. We want to know someone. And we want to know them for who they are. Yet at the same time, usually each individual has a wall of shame, right? We're in a world that actively shames. So we have this wall of shame that we're contending with within ourselves, within others. If we want someone to be honest and open with us, we kind of have to be that way with them, right? But then sometimes we can find ourselves offloading and almost kind of mistreating the dynamic a little bit without even realizing. And just bear with me here as I go into this a little bit, because we're not really going to go into it in this angle on Thursday night. So that's why I wanted to bring it through now. I'm going to go into it on Thursday night in a really powerful way, but this topic here is a fun one. Most people know who to call if they want, for example, a tarot reading. You've got a tarot lady or a tarot guy. You know where you're going to go to if you want a psychic reading, perhaps. You know who you're going to go to if you want a channeling or if you want a quantum healing. You might have someone that you might check off the list and go, that person, that's who comes to mind. But what of emotional intelligence? Because this is a thing, this is the one thing that I notice has the most charge, even more charge, right? And charge like a repulsion energy, like we want to repulse it. Even more charge than allopathic medicine. Any guesses? Mental health. And this is a really interesting one because, of course, there's a lot of most of us in this community have had this experience where we've been gaslit, or like what we've said or what we've experienced has been disparaged. It's been kind of, dismissed and belittled, and there's a stigma and a prejudice even that can crop up around believing in angels, or talking to star beings, or knowing that there is life elsewhere, and knowing that there are different timelines and dimensions and planes, and there's a higher self and there's a soul, and what does that even mean? And things have meaning, dreams have meaning, even if you think they don't, even if, anyway, I could go on. But what really occurred to me is that I wonder how many people would be able to say, okay, yes, and I have someone that I go to for my mental health. And I ponder upon this because if you want to know your true emotional process, and if you want to get to the root of your shadows, ideally you want to go to someone with the wisdom. You want to go to someone with that wisdom, with the intellect and the capacity to hold the space and to know where the window of tolerance is for someone, to know how to help someone uncover something. Yet oftentimes there's a lot of stigma, and I know it's also a cultural thing, but it's fascinating when there's so much emphasis on the nervous system as well, right? We have a big emphasis on the nervous system, and the nervous system we know is the subconscious mind. It's linked in with the subconscious mind, and we know that our shadows is our unconscious mind. And if we can't balance ourselves out, then heaven forbid, because it'll show up in another, getting reflected back, and we're going, why is that person being such a horrible person? When really they're not. They're just mirroring an energy that we've estranged from ourselves. So it's really interesting because it got me thinking. And it's kind of like, okay, so for example, for myself, I know if I wanted tarot reading, I know I'm calling my friend Emma. I'm going, hey Emma, I want a reading. I can do my own reading. She tells me that enough times. Sometimes it's nice, isn't it? I know if I want, if I'm looking for someone for quantum healing, I've got a list of people. If I'm looking for someone for my physical body, I have a masseuse, I've got a chiropractor, I've got a Nate lady. I personally, I have these people that I go, oh, they're my go-to. They resonate. I know that they know their shit. They know what they're talking about. And I don't have to doubt them. There is nothing in that energy to doubt them. I also have a nervous system lady. And this is what's interesting, is that I have a nervous system lady. She's a trained psychiatrist, though. And the thing is, I think it's time that we remove the stigma a little bit from the mental health world, because it is very outdated, but it's also awakening to this new age. So let me say that in a different way. There are practices, modalities, and sciences that can actually reprogram the nervous system from the roots up, so that you're not having to offload on friends, so that you're not going around repeating karmic cycles. Because this is the thing that I think most of us forget from this human form, is that our karmic cycles are stored within our DNA. Our DNA is managed by the subconscious. The subconscious is rooted in the wounds of the inner child. Our personality is formed from those experiences. Our DNA is formed and replicated from those experiences. So if you want to turn back time on your physical body, if you want to slow down aging and reverse it, if you want to heal something in your body physically, if you want to stop a pattern repeating, whether that's with a loved one, a friend, a family member, or whether that's just something that you seem to reoccur within your life, yes, lots of other modalities can help, but if it keeps hitting the replay button, and we're going to notice this is a theme of eclipses, this is a theme of, Pluto and Capricorn, all of this kind of coming back around. It's fascinating because until we are ready to embrace our shame, the things that we feel shame about, and actually reprogram it, this is the missing link here. Actually reprogram it like the body is a computer and you are literally putting in a new code. Unless you're physically putting in that new code, it's going to repeat and repeat for a longer time. There are quicker ways to do it now. And so, personally, my experience is that most people have an opinion that going to see someone is when things are going wrong, rather than seeing someone just as a check-in, check-up, kind of touching base and getting to know yourself. I'll continue to see the chiropractor even when there's nothing wrong physically, noticeably with my body. And I'll go and see him anyway because I know that there'll be something a little bit off kilter that I'm not even fully aware of yet. And I want to get ahead of that before it becomes a thing. Just like we eat healthily to put the right energy, the right atoms and molecules and universes into our body that are going to resonate with what we want our body to become. But just like when we are putting things in, such as a food, to strengthen and enhance and beautify and fortify the human form, the temple that we are in, we also have to purge things and release things. So it's a little bit beyond me that there is still a stigma around mental health. Because it's always going to fluctuate, just like the body is always going to fluctuate. Sometimes we'll get a cold, sometimes you'll have an allergy outburst. And psychiatry, psychology, the mind is so vast. There are lots of different avenues and lots of different, perhaps more old school approaches. But I want to talk about something that I've personally had experience with. And I find it incomparable personally. And once again, I keep saying personally because this is a personal experience. But as far as it goes, and as far as modalities go, I can honestly say that I have exchanged enough energy with an immense amount of modalities and practices throughout my incarnation in this lifetime to get a very broad understanding. It could be emotion code, body code, quantum healing, hypnosis, QHHT, NATE, kinesiology, chiropractic, rune healing, energy healing. I've formed my own modality that I offer to people and perform with people, channeling, all these different things that I've tried for a decent enough length of time to get an accurate depiction of it. And also one of those things is in the psychiatry world. And I'm very interested in psychology and psychiatry. You'll hear this from a lot of the topics that I speak about in the videos that I bring up. But one of the things is called EMDR. EMDR ideally is performed by a psychiatrist because of how it works. What is essentially happening is the nervous system itself is linked in to the body, mainly through the vagus nerve, right? Everything's connected. Of course, we have all this electrical blueprint. We have the spinal cord, it goes up to the brain. It's the electrical hub. We've got the main nerves, which are the vagus nerves, right? You also have loads of other nerves as well, but the vagus nerve is the biggie. It controls your body in so many different ways through to essentially your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So your fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. What happens in this life is that we are finding ourselves in a fight or flight response daily, and that's fine, that's normal, because that takes us to a state of being alert or trying to get ourselves to safety. Granted, there is no actual mountain lion or bear chasing it. Well, maybe if you live in Canada, but there's no bear or lion chasing us anymore. The stress that causes fight or flight is, work situations, home situations, things that cause and evoke shame or fear of, emotional manipulation, things like that. But the body itself, like, we have evolved immensely as humans, as our soul, I should say, actually. Our soul, our energy has ascended, awakened, evolved immensely. We are remembering more than we've ever remembered before. We are remembering our star heritage. We are remembering our rose lineage. We are remembering the Anunnaki aspects of self. We're remembering Atlantis, Lemuria, and other planets and constellations. We're remembering different dimensions, timelines, lifetimes. And as we remember, our DNA goes, oh, I remember that a little bit. But then the body has not awakened to the same capacity. And so the body is still operating on the very human essence that it had ages ago, which was based on survival. So the survival was, okay, we're going to put you in fight or flight mode to either kickstart you, to give you energy, to get yourself out of a dynamic. I actually felt this the other day when I was driving. I was driving somewhere, and we were on a 70-mile-an-hour road, and then all of a sudden, the cars in front of me came to an emergency stop. And my adrenaline kicked in, right? That's the fight and flight response. The vagus nerve controls obviously it perceives danger, it releases the chemicals in your body, it like kickstarts everything. It goes, okay, do something. But it's fascinating because as soon as that adrenaline runs through your body, everything goes weak. Right? So I could feel like my joints, it felt, I could feel the energy, like, and see the energy just leaving different parts of my joints. I'm going, oh, wow, okay. I need to do something here to reset my nervous system because it's just had a massive response. Our body can come back from fight or flight. Now, when we get to freeze response, traditionally speaking, survivally speaking, the body didn't expect, it wouldn't used to have expected to come back from freeze response. We're going to freeze response to shut down. We're going to shock to shut down, right? When we go into shock, the body is not expecting to come back from that. It's kind of like, oh, the bear is here. I'm going to freeze to such a point where I can't feel anything. Have you ever had an accident, had something happen, and you're in such a state of shock that you can't really feel it? Like I remember when I concussed myself a few months back, I fell on my head, and my body went into such a state of shock that it was as though I was carrying on as per normal, but I'm like, I know that my body's in shock because I don't feel like I'm in it. I feel like I'm reverberating outside of it right now over here. And it was my chiropractor with his wonderful magician-y ways that helped get everything back. He's not just a chiropractor, he's a cosmic wizard, really. Trained in like 10,000 modalities, is incredible. But yeah, that took a certain amount of time to actually fix. It's not just like going into fight or flight. Like my body went into freeze. And we do this a lot. I'm going to presume that every one of us has been in freeze response. Because what happens is the fawn response, where we start to placate people and people please and change who we are to try and predict what's going to happen with other people so that we don't get caught unaware, and don't have to go through any of the core wound issues such as humiliation or rejection or abandonment or massive shame invoking. It's fascinating because when we go into freeze response, our body kind of stays like that. And then what happens is our personality forms around it. So aspects of ourselves that we think is actually us, it's not us. And we know that we're not the body, right? The body is the vehicle. You're not the body. The body's the vehicle. And you have to tune up the vehicle. You have to make sure that it's got everything it needs, everything's operating well. And we kindly are really quite ignorant to our own body in the sense that we feel like, no, this is who I am. I like doing this. This is, I'm an introvert. I'm an extrovert. I'm a this. I'm a that. These are the friends that I like. This is what I like to do. And it's kind of like, is that really what you like to do? Is it really what you like to do? You might find in a few weeks' time it's not what you like to do. You might find that that characteristic that you thought was you isn't actually you. It's a response that formed part of personality. And that can be all said and true and well and everything if we really, really enjoy everything about our life, every single moment of the day. We're living in such joy, such joy, such joy, but we're not there yet. And so, all of us, once again, this is a presumption, but a fairly, in my maybe slightly biased opinion, from the work that I do and from how people share things with me, is that we've all found ourselves in this freeze response without even realizing, because it's so subtle. And that starts to create, freeze response is such a big one that it starts to create things in the unconscious. And like I say, if we can't balance the unconscious within us, if we can't reintegrate that, because the unconscious is estranged, pushed away, and we push it away so much that it goes through another channel, another human, and it reflects back, and then we have, oh, this is a challenging situation now with this person that I really love. Why is that happening? Why am I being tarred with that brush, and why am I wanting to tar them with this brush, with this characteristic? Do you see what I mean? And so it's fascinating because until we actually question, hold on, do I want something to be different here? We might not ever address how our mind might still be seeking for balancing. And one of the ways to do that is through working with someone, working with a practitioner who is trained in psychiatry or is trained in psychology, because they have spent the years getting to know the mind in such a way that no matter who you talk to as a layman, we really just don't have that level of understanding. So you go to an expert, right? EMDR is really fascinating because it's when you are using your eyes, so the eyes connect directly to the nerve. And as you're doing this, you've got the capacity to actually reprogram. You can do it in different ways. So you could go down your spine and do different things. But for EMDR, they use light. With talking therapy, it doesn't have to really be that much talking. It can actually be completely silent, apparently. But your mind will actually start to heal itself because that's what it's always trying to do. But to have someone who is trained to hold that space and to make sure that you're not going off the deep end either which way, because this is the thing, is that we all have trauma. Deny it as much as you want, but we all have trauma. And we all have pretty severe trauma. And that's just where we're at right now on Earth. And we are trying to heal this. We are looking for ways to form deeper, more meaningful, more authentic relationships and connections with one another. But until we can have the courage to look at ourselves and go, hey, I probably have some stuff to heal, our emotional intelligence is not going to increase. Without emotional intelligence, without having someone with that training to mirror and reflect and bounce back and forth and soundboard with, and even help you reprogram, if you want to, your nervous system, our emotional intelligence is going to remain very arrogant, very ignorant. And the way that the ego works is that it's genius, really, because the ego doesn't want you to feel pain. So anytime we've ever felt pain, it goes, oh, okay, I'm going to remember what happened there, and I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again. But then what occurs, it means that often we start to adopt these behaviors that aren't the healthiest, especially when conflict arises or challenge arises. Ideally, we want to get to a place where no matter what challenge arises with a friend, with a loved one, especially with a partner, with a life partner, we want to get to a place where, yes, okay, there is something big happening here, but I want to work through that with you. We are working as a team, even if I've triggered that in you, even if you've triggered that in me. Let's work together as a team here to unpick this. Because it doesn't actually ever usually come from the dynamic that you're in now. It always comes from somewhere before. But without developing your emotional intelligence, and you can't do that through reading a book, it's experiential. It's through a self-healing process and bringing those parts of you back. So it's really interesting because I personally think that there's a lot of fear still around this because there is so much shame imbued within us, generally speaking, that we actually really don't want to feel what's going to be felt when we go into those memories or those beliefs, even, or those challenges that we've experienced in life before, to actually go and heal them. But really, that pain's going to continue to repeat. And this is an important message for an eclipse season and an equinox coming up. That pain is going to repeat in different relationships until we heal it. Law of attraction says the same thing, you know? So, really, each one of us, each one of you, deserves to have that person in your life. You deserve to have that person in your life. There is someone out there for everyone. There's enough people on the planet. It's like 10 billion. And they are going to be a reflection of how whole you allow yourself to be within yourself. And if you find yourself looking, wanting, desiring, good. But look in the reflection and find a way to love yourself. And if you can't look in the mirror, if you find it hard to look in the mirror and look in your eyes and see your reflection and just be still with yourself, if you can't do that for a few minutes each day, likely is indicative that there is something there, something blocking your belief around love. And the answers can only be found within. But remember, the conscious mind knows only itself. So until someone else comes along to hold the space or who has more wisdom in a certain area, even if it's helping us know ourselves, it will take longer to try and know yourself through only yourself. It's always much quicker through other people, especially one that is trained in that capacity, because that's one of the things that I think many of us in this spiritual world find a little bit challenging, is that we are always seeming to dump on one another, right? Something's always happening. It's always very intense, and we want to just unload it all onto someone else, hoping that they're going to fix it, when really the only way that it's going to heal itself is if we actually actively go through the process of healing it. No one else is going to do it for you, where you get to have a passenger seat, you know? So it's a call to action a little bit as well. Because each one of you deserves to have so much love in your life. You came from love. You will return to love. You're just helping your body remember, okay? Anyway, I'll see some of you on Thursday, the 19th of September, with Emma Sullivan and myself online at 7:30 p.m. UK time. So that's 2:30 Eastern. And I'm not sure the time zones elsewhere, but of course, there is always a recorded replay. So if you're busy that day, don't worry. If you sign up, you get the replay straight away. But we're going to be doing a wonderful quantum healing and a quantum activation. On Thursday, we're going to be talking a little bit about soul connections and why they kind of dissolve a little bit, and how to actually maintain and strengthen and enhance your tribe in a really authentic and coming from the right place way. So when the foundations are really wholesome and secure and loving, then things can really build in a really beautiful way. So I'm really honored to be doing that with my friend Emma. And then on Saturday, on the equinox, there'll be a free meditation and mini workshop live streaming on my YouTube channel. So I will see you all soon. I just wanted to share that. Of course, the link for the Magdalene Retreat Day on the winter solstice in Glastonbury is live now. Only 12 spaces available if it calls to you. Have a little look on aliceheath.com. And my next speaking event with Jackie White is also up there as well for the 23rd of October in Lyndhurst. So I'll see some of you in various different ways, all very soon. But I love you all, and keep smiling. You came from love, you return to love. You are love. I love you. Bye for now.